Hello and welcome to the sixth week of our course on content writing. And today, what we are going to discuss is press releases. I will explain what press releases are, and I will share how you can write very good press releases, what format you need to have in mind when writing a press release, and we will also discuss the objectives of writing a press release. Another detail we will discuss today is the do's and don'ts of press releases. As always, I will share the link to my lecture notes so you can read them at your own leisure, and make sure you do the task that will be assigned at the end of this lecture to practice it, because we will assess our students' performance based on all these practices that we have been assigning. So let's get to it. First of all, what I would like to say is the best way for a content writer to understand what a press release is thinking about it as a newsletter, like a newspaper. At some point or the other, you must have read a newspaper or seen a newspaper somewhere. As in the olden days, we used to have printed newspapers that were massive. Nowadays, in the digital world, there are websites where you can publish a simple article of yours, written in a specific format with the intention of announcing a news of some kind. Press releases are a tool of an advertising copy, usually used from a business to business or business to customer perspective. That means your intention for writing a press release is usually to promote or to market something that the company might be offering, or a new launch of a service or something, or like that, something along those lines. So as you can see here, I have explained what is a press release. It is a bulletin sort of content. It is about announcing the latest business is doing, the latest a business is doing. Usually press releases are B2B and B2C, and the objective of a press release is to announce breaking news about a business event happening or a huge success that has been achieved. The bottom line is, it is the best way to promote a business in a professional way without sounding too advertising. So as a content writer, you might find yourself being asked to write a press release, and here are a few things I highlighted to make the challenge of writing press releases easier, because writing a press release is generally not that easy. You might think it is, but it isn't actually, especially because if you are told where the press release is going to be published, then you have to make sure you meet all the requirements, fulfill all those requirements. So the first thing you need to do is make sure that the story you're writing or the news you're writing about is noteworthy. It's the writer's challenge to make it catchy and noteworthy, even if it is a very bogus news, because sometimes I have found myself in the past, when I was a writer, being asked to write a press release, and I would often sit and wonder that is this information something people would want to read about. But then I realized that no matter what, it was my client, so I had to do something and make it sound noteworthy. So as a content writer, if you're writing a press release, this is one of your greatest challenges. Always keep in mind the target audience, which you have to do in every case. Ask yourself who will read it and why the PR should offer value. The best way to start off is by asking yourself these questions, and after you ask these questions, you should try and find answers to them yourself, because nobody will provide them for you. So you should ask who will read the newsletter, what is the purpose of the newsletter or the press release, where you are targeting the news to be for, when will that news make an impact, or when is it going to be released or published, why should it be important, and how can you make it important. That means highlighting how it can benefit the readers. And of course, you have to think of it from the client's perspective as well. So it's your duty as a content writer to make sure you answer all these questions for both sides while planning the content for the press release. It's not that easy. Then you come to the second stage of planning the content. The first thing you need to do is keep the headline short. Do not make a very long headline, meaningless headline. After the headline follows a summary of the entire content. That's usually a two-liner. The third paragraph should highlight the importance of the story. Whatever news it is that you're writing about, I am referring to it as a story. So highlight the importance of that story so that the reader should find it valuable. Go into the details of the story in paragraph 3. Talk about how it happened, if it was an incident or a scenario or a development, a launch or something, and try to mention the people involved maybe. Paragraph 4 should include relevant quotes, credibility and opinions. This is a very important feature. Usually we use italics or quotation marks and make it seem like a spokesperson said something or the CEO of the company said something. This adds credibility to the information that you are writing about. Paragraph 5 tells the people where they can find more information, buy the product or get involved. So the fifth paragraph is where you should mention details about the company. And another tip I have given in this note is always write in third person. That means you should write, for example, XYZ Limited has signed a pound or pound 10 million agreement with company 123 Limited, but you can't write something like we've signed. You can't make a personal a tone to it, so always keep it in the third person. This is a third person scenario. You cannot go direct as we or I in press releases, so keep the tone corporate and decent, and stick to only one story per press release. I have had the experience of training some writers in the past, and one mistake they mostly do is they try to throw in 3-4 headlines, 3-4 developments in the company and promote it in one press release, but that is not how you should do it. You should only promote one service or one achievement of the company or one product launch at a time in one press release. You can write other press releases for every other thing that is happening, so keep it only one story per press release. I have mentioned some recommended sites in my notes. You can visit them here, and if you are, this will give you a better idea about what kind of titles they should be. So we can have a look at this one. In the meantime, let me open these other links as well, so that we can just briefly go over why I have recommended that you should study these or use them as a reference. You see, this is how a press release website looks. As you can see, there are headlines and a few words giving a summary of what this article is about. If we study the titles, you will see they are to the point, no jargons, no stories, just to the point. Statement by missing piece in response to grand jury verdict in the Breonna Taylor case. It's like an announcement. Epinwin makes it easy to check your vehicle before you make a purchase. So this is the kind of headlines press releases should have. It's not extremely promotional. Do not sound very promotional. Sound informative in your titles when you make titles. This is another website. You can study it. See the types of titles they have. Renee Bailey announces the release of 18 things college students need to know. Empowered Flower Girl to celebrate girls who transform the world in honor of International Day of Girls. These are the kind of headings. It's like a news website. So if you are getting out of ideas, if you want ideas on what a press release should look like, feel free to visit these links. Google your other links yourself. Google is always at your disposal, so make sure you explore and research a lot whenever you find yourself working on anything content related. Nonetheless, I have still summarized the format for a press release. And if you open any of these press releases, for example, let's let it load while I go over this. As you can see in my notes here, I have mentioned that the title should not have words like in, is, it, what, where, because these are conjunctions and it's not really necessary in the title. You can simply write company XYZ overtakes stock market, to the point, crisp. Such words tend to sound fluffy sometimes, so try to keep the title as crisp as possible. Following the title must be a subtitle, a one sentence describing the news you're writing about. There must be a date and publication area, and the state or county of the publication. This is what I mean. This is the format. They should be after the one-liner summary before you start writing the first paragraph, and the first paragraph of the content must be about the company, what it has achieved and what it is doing or what it does. Then the body must be about the latest news you are writing about. Whatever it is you are trying to promote, that is what will follow after a brief introduction about the company for which you are writing. Of course, by introduction I don't mean promote the company out and loud, just be informative. Never use the first person approach, as I mentioned above. Keep it to second and third term. Never use I or you. You must have at least 1 to 2 quotes which you can create yourself. Be like, sometimes of course you wouldn't have the opportunity to interview a company's owner or a company spokesperson. You have to be a bit creative here sometimes. Create a quote relevant to what you are promoting in the article. Then there should be a conclusion about the news and a bit about the company, the contact information, and end the PR with 3 hashes. This is a formality that you must follow. I have inserted an image of what I mean. As you can see here, this is the headline. It's up to you to mention the date, if not, no biggie. Then you have the summary, a one-liner summary here following this, and this is the date and the place and area format that I mentioned above. Make a small hyphen, and then this is where your introduction starts. As you can see here, this introduction is talking a little about the Live Ticket Exchange. This is the company, where it is and what it has been doing. This is the website, and I have also mentioned the event that will be taking place during this period, as you can see in the headline. There was other text which I have removed. I just wanted to show you how the format has to be. And this was a quote that I just created, that the spokesperson said blah blah blah. So you can also do that, or the CEO of the company in an interview with us said this and that. Be very tactful about how you include quotation here. Then the last paragraph will be a brief about the company, and of course there will be a subtle call to action somewhere if you want to, and then end it with the 3 hashes here. So if we go to this website, this is the same format they have followed. You can see the main title here, a 1 or 2 liner summary talking about like the main title, shedding a bit more light on it. This is the date format here, where it is published is on this very website, pr.com, and this is a bit about the company or the owner of the company, because this is a person, Michael Zufeld. He is the director of operations and training, and whatever his details are here. Then this is the first paragraph talking about what he enjoys doing, because obviously this press release is promoting his services. Here is a quotation mark, as you can see, a quotation here. Here they have added another quotation. This is where we are heading towards the end of the article, so they have mentioned the contact details, and this is it, the email. It finally ended with a contact and about the company's information. So this is the same format they have followed here. This is a standard format every website follows, so you can go over this, practice it if you want. I will leave a question at the end so that you can write a press release and send it in for us to evaluate your performance and how much you've learned from this lecture. I have mentioned a summary of the objectives of writing the press release, just to help the writers here to get this into perspective. It helps increase media outreach because it mentions the business and promotes it. It increases content marketing and SEO. It helps the business remain in people's mind, because a lot of people visit press releases, even if not in our country, worldwide. There are, especially in Europe and America and UK, people depend on press releases for information regarding businesses and things like that. Press releases reinforce the objective or the message of the campaign. They increase brand awareness. So here are some do's and don'ts of writing press releases. The do's are that you must or you should write about who, why, where, when, what, etc. You should also be concise and brief. You should be focused on the target audience. You should make sure it is newsworthy and include at least one quote in it. In the don'ts, don't use unpopular jargons and slangs and complicated acronyms. Don't complicate the news. Don't forget to include social media, the website, and contact information. These are very key factors or features of a press release that you must keep in mind. So as always, feel free to leave your comments and questions, if any. Get back to me in emails and I will write back to you. And make sure you practice writing press releases. I hope you had a nice lesson here, and hope to hear from you. Have a good day.